Do women prefer to be admired by men or by other women? That's the question for today's video. I would say that for both men and women, we prefer to have the admiration and approval of the same gender. So as a group, men care more about what other men think, and women care more about what other women think about them. The exception for this is when you are in a committed relationship. You care more about what your partner thinks than anyone else. But generally speaking, whenever we engage in any behavior that are designed to seek approval and admiration, we care more about what our same gender think. I'm going to talk a little bit about evolution in this video, so just keep in mind that when we talk about evolution, it all boils down to number one, survival, and number two, reproduction. Okay, so let's start with men first. Back in tribal day, the division of labor was mainly separated by gender roles. So men were doing one thing and women were doing other things. So any tasks that were done by men were shared by other men. Let's say hunting, for example. In order to successfully complete this task, that required a cooperation that exists simply amongst the men. So when you are judged for your competency as to how good you are in contributing to the tribe, do you see how it's other men that will be able to judge you for your competency? Women can still look at the male hunters, but they won't be able to differentiate with specificity as to what makes one hunter better than the other hunter, right? Because they engage in a different type of work. And since it's the men who are better judges of your competency, it's their approval that means a lot more. You can also argue that men are very hierarchical. We want to know where we stand in the pecking order. Are we the top tier guy or are we somewhere in the bottom? So again, I think it matters what other men think because it's their opinions that are going to place you somewhere in that hierarchy. Now, for women back in the day, their survival is very much linked to social bonds. Are they able to get on with the group? Through supporting each other, talking, cooking, raising children, making clothes, being there for each other, that a woman feels a sense of safety. Even the men as a group, let's say they strongly dislike a woman. I don't think it would impact her that much. Maybe she won't be able to find a partner, but she'll survive as long as she has the approval of other women. But like I said earlier, the exception to this is when you are in a committed relationship. What your partner thinks of you, that really matters. I think it's difficult to understate the importance of your partner's approval. If you're a man, there's a massive amount of masculinity that cannot be validated by other men. And the same goes for women. There are certain aspects of your femininity that cannot be validated by other women. That has to come from the opposite gender. You can argue that all of the masculine dominant cooperation stuff is still ultimately about finding your place in that hierarchy so that you can have access to the women at the end. And you can say the same thing for women. Once they establish who's the likable one, who's the pretty one, then they will set each other up for the right man. It's probably too simplistic to reduce everything down to sex and reproduction. I think it's important to also consider basic survival. So for women, I don't think all of that social bonding activities are about getting to the men. I think they're doing it for survival reasons as well. But it's important that her femininity is validated by a man. And do you see the difference? It's one man. That's all she needs. The rest of the group is not as important. It's important if she doesn't get anybody, but as long as she has that one man and her hypergamy is satisfied, then she doesn't really care if other men find her attractive. And vice versa, if you're a man and you're satisfied with your partner, she is an amazing woman, then you don't really care about all the other women. So let's go back to the question of this video. Who are we trying to get the approval of? I say as a group, we care more about what our same gender think. Okay, let's put some nuance to this because I don't think it's black and white anymore. In today's society, we see more and more of men and women engaging in the same field. Now, fundamentally speaking, I believe that what it means to be a successful man is still very different from what it means to be a successful woman. However, since men and women are working together, it's less about gender and it's more about the field that you're in. For example, let's say, as a man in the business world, you want the admiration of other businessmen. Somebody who's working 9 to 5, they have no idea what it's like to run a company, right? They might look at you and think, oh wow, that's so impressive. You can run a company. It's nice and all, but it doesn't mean as much as the guy next building who is trying to do the exact same thing you're doing. You want his approval because he knows exactly how hard it is to run a company. And the same goes for other fields. Let's say you are a professional athlete. You want the admiration of other athletes. Someone in the street might be like, oh wow, you're so fit, you can run so fast. But they can't possibly appreciate the fact that you can outrun your competitors by seconds. So again, I think in today's society, there's more emphasis on the field that you're in and less about gender. Alright, that's just my perspective. Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comment section. Until next time. stay curious.